Welcome to the Redeemer University podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and today we are going to be talking with Matt Bean about Redeemer's Career Center. We're going to highlight experiential learning at Redeemer and exploring how the Career Center is a valuable resource to Redeemer students. If it is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out some of our other episodes that explore various aspects of Redeemer, Christian education, and so much more. Thank you for making us part of your day. And with that, here we go. The one, the only, Matt Bean onto today's podcast. Matt, how are you today? And can you introduce yourselves to our listeners?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm the career advisor in the Career Center at Redeemer University, and something that in that role, I work with students in supporting them in whether that's summer jobs, part-time jobs, or looking at those bigger questions of what can I do next. So that's something that we work as part of the Career Center team, really on supporting students.
Awesome. And one of the reasons we felt it was so important to have an episode highlighting the Career Center is because one of the biggest advantages of coming to a smaller school like Redeemer University is that you do have access to so much personable help. You get to know students by name. You get excited when they, land that interview or they land that job. And in this episode, we're really going to be exploring just the resource of the Career Center. But before we deep dive into it here, I did just want to bring up, this is the Career Center's webpage on our website here. And so I encourage everyone to go check it out. I'll make sure there's a link for it in the description below. And it just highlights a couple of quick facts here where it says 200 direct sessions with students to prepare them for employment and careers. I'm assuming that's per year, I'm assuming.
Yes, per year.
Per year. 3 job fairs organized to develop networking and support job opportunities. Are those at Redeemer or are they kind of around the city of Hamilton?
So 2 of them at Redeemer, and one is put on jointly with McMaster University and Mohawk College in downtown Hamilton. And this year we actually have in store for the seminary fair as well for students in their upper years, looking at if they're thinking about seminaries, inviting them all on campus at the same time.
Wow, that will be that's a great resource for students looking into seminary.
Yeah.
90% satisfaction with career counseling. That doesn't surprise me one bit. 67% of students were involved in experiential learning, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the podcast, and 1,300 jobs posted on hireredeemer.ca in the past year. And for those of you who don't know, hire at redeemer.ca, that's Redeemer's internal job board. So that's very, very exciting. And it's a testament to the good work that you and the Career Center team are doing here at Redeemer. So thank you for all your hard work. And I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
So let me get into this. Let's just start with a simple answer. Simple question. What does the Career Center do? Like at the most basic practical level?
The Career Center, most broadly speaking, is a resource for students to be intentionally engaging with preparing for whatever's next. Generally speaking, for most students, that is the workforce on a full-time basis. For some, that's graduate studies or further education as well. So preparation on multiple levels. One, we talked about experiential learning briefly already as a way of gaining some experience, and also can be very helpful in determining is the direction that the student was planning, is that do I really see myself there by experiencing it? Because it can sound like such a great opportunity, I would love to be a doctor, but until you actually get there and start experiencing things, there's aspects of being a doctor that you might not have thought about. Same with teaching. Oftentimes coming out of high school, there's a preconceived notion of what a teacher is like. and or what's involved in the job, it's very different actually getting out there and experiencing some of that. Some parts that you will like, maybe like better than you anticipated, or vice versa.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the things that having a resource like the Career Center is so valuable to our students, so that if they are thinking about becoming a teacher, or they're thinking about going into the medical profession, or they're thinking about, getting into, kind of broader field of studies of like media or social work,
Mm.
having someone like yourself who you can actually meet with, talk through some things, maybe look into an internship, maybe look into some sort of job placement in the summer, things like that. I think that's fantastic that our students have that resource available to them. So in that experiential learning piece there, I know that that's something we talk about a lot, and a lot of our programs at Redeemer feature experiential learning, whether it's co-op, whether it's an internship, or some sort of placement of some kind. How would the Career Center help students in various disciplines of studies find those opportunities?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on the type of experiential learning. For those programs that have a cooperative education program, it's a little different from high school co-op in that university co-op, it is a paid experience in the
Yep.
workplace. You have 2 8-month work terms that you're out in full time in the workforce. And so it extends the program by 1 year, but builds in at least 12, if not 16 months of practical experience in the workforce. And so how the Career Center supports students is one through a co-op prep class. So how to go out and find employment, how to build the resume, how to network, how to uh, do well on a job interview. Because to get a co-op position is really essentially the same as a job, except we provide a lot more support in the co-op. So there's always going to be some options provided. The students are free to go and find other opportunities that are maybe in a different geographic location than the Hamilton area, or if what's being presented isn't exactly what they're hoping for, and have other connections in other direction. So that's co-op. Internship is a single course that you earn course credit for, which
Right.
means that they aren't always paid, but you can, if especially if it's a summer internship, actually find a paid opportunity. So that it kind of does double duty, but it's primarily a learning experience. And same with co-op. Is Bruce, who's in charge of all the co-op programs right now. He wants to encourage students to think of it first as a learning experience, and
Mhm.
secondary as an income generating experience.
That that's definitely a healthy way to approach it, especially when you're in the middle of your undergrad,
Yeah.
in some capacity, right? So that oh okay, well that is definitely awesome that you guys can provide that direction and that counsel. What would you do for you know and this is something I'm being a little cheeky here because I know this is a situation that a lot of students find themselves in. They start their first or their second year of university, and they start thinking more about their career, and there's kind of this a natural shift that happens in their thinking where, okay, maybe I'm in a media program, maybe I'm in a business program, maybe I'm in a science program, an English program. And as you start to look for like summer employment, something in your thinking changes a little bit of, okay, maybe instead of working at that job that I've done the past couple of summers, I'd like to find something that's more in my field of study.
Hmm.
How do you go about counseling someone who's in that first or second year of university, who's looking for that experiential learning outside of the classroom?
Yeah. So we have a variety of tools to support students. So students can find some resources available through the Career Center if they want to kind of tackle it on their own. And that's all well and good because everyone has different approaches, different preferences, but we do offer a lot of other supports as well. So we have job ready modules, which is a series of 8 different modules, or if like online mini courses that are like about 5 hours worth of watching some videos and doing some activities. Everything from understanding what you're understanding yourself, uh, and how to translate that well into a resume, and using cover letters, which might be for a lot of students, they've never really done a cover letter other than in their careers course if they had one in high school. So a lot has changed from being a 15, 16-year-old to now you're in first, second, even third year of university. And what is that going to look like? How do I use a cover letter well? How do I interview for a job? Especially if all the other jobs have come through, oh, my parents know so and so, and we kind of had a little conversation, and I was hired. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of first time jobs or early career jobs when you're still in high school or even in the early years of university, often those jobs come through networking, and don't require a more formalized approach like a resume and cover letter. And same with job interviews and how to actually everything right through to how to begin into a new position well.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
those are a
okay.
couple of resources. Um, in addition to the job ready modules, we offer one-on-one support. We have resume reviews done by third and fourth year students to support those in first and second year.
That's awesome.
So how to kind of bump it up. Usually those are half an hour sessions, and then kind of go back and clean it up a little bit, that the student would spend that time. And also we have one-on-one appointments, whether that's you want to practice for a job interview, or you want some input on your cover letter or resume for a specific type of job or specific job you're applying for. We provide those one-on-one supports as well. And something that we've been revamping this summer is on the library, the Peter Turkstra Library, where there's a library guide for the Career Center that has direct access and links to a whole host of resources and topics. So for students who are looking to don't even know where to begin, Google searches or other search engines come up with such a wide variety of paid advertisements. It's hard to know, and so many different opinions on what does a good resume look like. We've kind of curated that list to be a little bit more professional and geared towards university students who are looking to bump up their job readiness, so to speak.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. So it's so much more than what the name would say. Career Center is so much more than that. It's job readiness. It's resume workshop. It's I know I've had Bruce look over my LinkedIn profile when I was applying
Yeah.
for jobs in the past, and so many great opportunities there. And I guess could we maybe talk a little bit about our career center, because you go to pretty much any post-secondary institution and they'll have some form of career center or pathway center or things like that
Yeah.
that do good work. But what's something that would make Redeemer's Career Center a little bit different, and maybe there's something about a smaller university career center that's just a benefit to it?
Yeah. Um, you know what? In a single expression, it's that one-on-one, the personal touch that Redeemer as a whole community offers
Hmm.
is replicated as well within the Career Center. With a smaller number of students, even though we're not a huge staff, like we're not talking dozens and dozens of staff here in the Career Center, there's still bandwidth to support students on like to address a specific question or address a specific desire to look over a resume or what have you. That would be students can get an appointment within a day, generally speaking, at
Wow.
Redeemer. Whereas larger institutions, you're booking 2 weeks, 3 weeks out to that to
Yeah.
books to actually see a human being in person. Um,
And
we do
and,
also
and I'm
offer virtual appointments, but
and I'm assuming when students book an appointment, do they just email you directly and book an appointment with you?
so there's kind of a couple approaches. One is yes, they can email careers@redeemer.ca, or we have through the Redeemer University app. There's the careers center page that one of the
Oh,
tabs
perfect.
on there, once you get actually come to Redeemer and you're a student, you'll be able to access it and you'll see there are hyperlinks for you to book your own time. So you can see all the available times for the career advising appointments, and you pick the time that works around your classes and your schedule.
Oh, that's awesome. That it's so accessible to students. It's not something that they have to book, weeks in advance or things like that. Because school year can get busy, right? And so when you have the time for it, you want to make the time, to do it accordingly. Um, I guess let's maybe shift our conversation a little bit.
Mhm.
And now I know this next topic we're going to talk about is trends in the job market and like the value of soft skills. We could spend hours, we could have a
Yeah.
whole podcast dedicated to exploring that topic, but just could you maybe touch on some of the things that you're noticing that employers are looking for, and that you're preparing students to embrace these soft skills as they go into the workplace?
Yeah. Well, you look at pretty much any resource that and any surveys that have been done of employers and what are they looking for in their employees over the last 10, even 20 years. There's it's been a real focus on so-called soft skills. I prefer to call them transferable skills. They're
Okay.
things that they're skills that are as opposed to the more technical skills or hard skills. These are skills that are very applicable or transferable in a lot of different roles. Things like communication, things like how learning styles and learning approaches, willingness to learn. More than a lot of employers, when they're hiring a student or hiring someone, a recent graduate, they're looking for someone who is teachable, who's willing to actually learn, who comes from a position of humility, of I'm here to learn, I'm here to apply what I've done, and like not being needy, like tell me what to do every single step. But and that's where that's another transferable skill is a bit of um, the words escaped me for a moment, but taking the initiative, that's the word. Taking the
Initiative, yeah.
initiative, but not assuming that, oh, I have a degree now, so I know everything. You have nothing to teach me. So coming from a position of humility and willingness to learn, you can learn all of the hard skills, all of those technical skills over through as in your early months and years of your work experience. Um, but something you can't really teach are those transferable skills. And at Redeemer, I think a lot of those skills are nurtured and developed far great at a greater extent than some of the larger post-secondary institutions where there's not that personal connection. It's a lot of individual work versus Redeemer has more group and collaborative approaches, which leads to a lot more interpersonal skill development. So that
Yeah.
when you get into the real world of work, um, you can actually collaborate and cooperate in a group setting much more readily than students who have been used to. I write this paper, I write this exam, I do this assignment, I do the lab. That's primarily on an independent basis and assessed accordingly.
Absolutely, that's a great point, and having the Christian community of a school like Redeemer allows you to learn those skills that you maybe need to work on, or that maybe you have, or whether it's a strength or a weakness, that you're able to bring that job ready, right into the work field as you go, and that is so valuable to have that knowledge while you're completing your undergraduate degree.
Yeah. And on the note of faith, that's another important component, even though it's not a skill, but it has an impact, kind of an underlying Faith is, in terms of Christian faith, is a relationship with God, but also a relationship with others.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a humility that comes from a growing and deepening faith, that is that it just is a more natural setting where those transferable skills flow out of. So faster to listen, and quicker to kind of hold on a second. I'm not perfect either when there's conflict situations. So we're developing a lot of those things, not even just at university, but within the church and within the Christian community as a whole.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for sharing, and I'm really excited. That we have this opportunity to have this conversation, and I'll close off with this question here, and I try to ask this as many times as I can on this podcast. What would you tell a student who's in high school right now, or maybe they're a transfer student at another university? What would you tell a prospective student that's considering Redeemer? What the Career Center can help them, accomplish?
In one word, the word intentional. Um, Intentional, what I mean by that is neither going to the extent of planning what you want to do after graduation so that you have every moment kind of accounted for, and have no leeway to say, to be called in a different direction. Um, and neither on the other extreme saying, I'll figure it out. When it comes to just choosing a career, I'll figure it out when I get to graduation, and I've got lots of time. I've got, especially for incoming, you think I've got 4 years, maybe even more. If you're on a part-time basis, or you're thinking of teacher education, there's you think there's so much time, but if you kind of keep pushing it off and pushing it off, you get to the point where it's like, where stress levels rise, where it becomes an urgent, and you're making more rash decisions based on what's convenient or what's comfortable, rather than really digging into the relationship with God and asking Him to lead the way, but still stepping out in faith, like, I think this is the way you're leading me. This is the way I'm going to keep moving until you call me another direction, Lord. And the way I like to illustrate this is, uh, my attitude towards what I do in the different career moves that I've made over my career. Um, I like to say I hold on to my plans with open hands, meaning
Mm.
that I'm not holding on so tight that no, I'm not going to change. This is what I'm doing no matter what. But still planning in a way saying, Lord, if you call me in a different direction, you want to take it out, you can, and you put something else in my plate, on my plate, and if you're calling me in a different direction. So intentionality is not just getting so engrossed in school and the assignments and social life, and those are all important parts of university life, but also taking some time to pause, to reflect on where God might be leading you towards, and exploring possibilities. He calls us into a relationship, not to say, uh, God's going to tell me in a clear voice, this is what you're going to do. Most of us, that's not our experience. So we have a responsibility to kind of take step of faith of, I think you're calling me this direction. I'm going to explore this possibility, and keeping in relationship with God will help us. We can't go too far off track if we have that right relationship with the Lord.
Amen. Amen. Oh, Matt, that's a great way to end off this interview. Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Redeemer University podcast. Thank you again to Matt for coming on and sharing what a great resource the Career Center is for Redeemer students. If you would like more information about Redeemer, feel free to check out our website, redeemer.ca, and you can always connect with us by email at admissions@redeemer.ca if you're interested in applying. God bless, and we'll see you in the next episode.